Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fragrant Bunker. Today we're going to talk about the top 5 November perfumes. Let me tell you, autumn is here, the leaves are falling or have already fallen depending where you are, and cold air is kind of seeping through the lands. Look at this gorgeous landscape that I've generated here. AI generated, by the way. It looks interesting. Very kind of moody vibes. The sun is setting. It's the end of the year. It's all coming to an end. Leaves everywhere. Halloween has passed. It's November. You know, now we're going towards that last stretch of whatever leaf is still on the trees is going to fall. And then in December, it's going to be winter. But we are still in November. So for this month, the first perfume, I'm going to take it right out. And so we're going to talk about it and then kind of like move on from there. You know, I'm not a fan of Oud. Really not a fan of Oud. But back in 2012, when Oud was not kind of yet in the Occidental world, in the Western world, wasn't yet like, it wasn't yet that popular. It wasn't that mainstream. You know, there was not that much of an Oud craze. Dior releases an Oud perfume for their Collection Privee range in 2012. And that would be Oud Ispahan. This is the only Oud I own, you guys. And yes, this bottle is 11 years old. So it's a little bit, just notice, dusty here. Let me just clean that off a bit. So it's a little bit more clean and beautiful for you guys. There you go. It's nice now without the fingerprints. So, I mean, it's a 250 ml bottle, and you can see I have used up half of it throughout the years. So it's not like in 11 years I used up 250 ml. I used up what I used up. This is the first formulation of Oud Ispahan. It is intense. Okay, this dark color you see, that's the color it turns after many years. It's kind of an orangey, rosy color. So we do have roses in here. We have a ton of roses, and we have a lot of synthetic oud. But it's a beautiful concoction. Dangerous to spray because it's so intense. It's the only oud I can wear. And even this one, very sparingly. And I used to wear it more when I first got it in 2012, when it was first released. And I would wear it quite a bit, but then as throughout the years, oud became more and more like the ingredient. Everybody was going crazy for it. Everybody was making their versions of it, using oud in perfumes. It just became too much. Everybody was smelling of oud on the streets. It's just too much. I cannot stand oud anymore. This one, my gosh, it's still oily on the skin after spraying it. It's like very concentrated. It used to be, you know, the current formulation isn't the same anymore. So it's kind of glistening on my skin. Beautiful, beautiful perfume. Is it November? Technically, this perfume is not very November-esque. You know, it is a springtime perfume usually. But I love it in November because the rose with the oud, they clash in a way like the oud kind of delivers a baby in this pairing with the rose. And the oud kind of gets spikes, like the rose thorns, kind of thorns grow out of the oud, but the thorns don't really hurt you, but rather they become a fluffy, kind of almost like a cashmere coat surrounding the oud to, you know, be able to survive November and cold months. And then the oud delivers to the rose a warm heart, a beating, pulsating heart that keeps warming up the rose. So there's warmth in here. But it's arid. It's very much a flower in the middle of the desert as well. So it is for a cold November. Really, really beautiful. For a dry, cold November. day or night. The sky is covered, it's gray, and you're feeling some type of way, you know? But it's not raining and it's not snowing yet. And then you wear Oud Ispahan, and strangely enough, it also makes me reminisce and think of the 20s. Just aesthetically, how the bigger cities in Europe looked like in the 20s with the Industrial Revolution. That entire aesthetic that goes with something that would be kind of maybe today, further developed aesthetics just for the sake of art, steampunk today, which is very far removed from the 20s revolution. But there's a bit of 20s in there in steampunk, and then they added all those extra things that, you know, if you like it, you like it. What can I say? But it's kind of like a steampunk without the steam, but 20s punk. That's where it's at. Take the steam away, leave the 20s in the game, and add the punk. 20s punk. That's Oud Ispahan. IYKYK, and I love it. It's great for November, but I use it very sparingly. Very sparingly. So if it took me 11 years to do not even half a bottle, I guess this one's good for another 11, huh? Let's see how this is in 22 years or 11 years from now. If I'm hopefully still going to be here, still talking to you guys. Let's see how it's gonna look 20 years from now, 11 years from now. The next one, oh, it's just gorgeous. This one is so divine. It warms up the senses in just the right way in November. Also great for going to the theater. Actually, it's made for theater and opera. Jean-Paul Gaultier's Parfum. Back in the day, this is the first edition of it. It was not called Classique. It was just called Jean-Paul Gaultier. And in fact, as you can see on the can, all it says is Jean-Paul Gaultier Parfum. And then later on, they renamed it Classique. And this is the Extrait bottle, 30 ml in the famous Gaultier Bustier from the late 80s, early 90s. The perfume is from the early 90s, however, even though the Bustier came already in the late 80s. It is a splash bottle, 30 ml. And of course, Madonna made it infamous in her Blonde Ambition World Tour. Best name for a tour ever, by the way. Blonde Ambition, girl, yes. Anyway, so why am I saying this is great for the opera, for warm opera nights and theater nights? Well, it's November, it's cold outside, and you wear this to the opera, to the theater, you take off your coat, you have your décolleté, and it kind of emanates from here, and you've also put it right there behind your ear and on your chest, and it's emanating. So Gaultier was talking in an interview about the idea behind this perfume, and he said he remembered the specific smell of going to the theater with his grandma, and he would love the smell of makeup emanating from the stage, like these old Parisian or French theaters with the wooden floors crackling as the dancers or actors are moving. And he would smell the emanation of that makeup from the stage that's either enshrined in the wood for after decades or centuries of theater being used, but also of the actors on stage with the spotlights kind of cooking them slowly and then emanating that smell. He wanted to imbue the perfume with that smell of theater stage, opera, dancing, Moulin Rouge, maybe even, you know, that kind of makeup mixed with perfume emanating from the theater stage. He wanted to imbue that into Jean-Paul Gaultier, which was then later renamed Classique. And so, but it also has a lot of vanilla. And in fact, it turns very dark with time, with age. The juice turns quite dark. And that vanilla warms the entire composition quite a bit, creating a sense of security and warmth, but it's very sophisticated. This perfume, it also has roses. It's a floral accord as well, but it is ambery at the core. At its base, it is ambery, but fresh ambery in a way. You know, it's kind of a revolutionary version of a synthetic vanilla makeup accord for the 90s. The 90s have seen some of the best perfumes released in the past decades, really, because they were just still, it was kind of the final golden era of perfumes in terms of experimenting, allowing yourself to release really experimental mass release perfumes. All of these major fashion houses were really pushing the bar. Now it's just about flankers, 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 always the same, play it safe, water it down, water it down. So to kind of have access to these beautiful vintage formulas is just like still today groundbreaking. Really sad if you think about it, because today nothing is groundbreaking anymore. So if we want to look for groundbreaking, we got to go into the past to find it, right? So Jacques Cavalier is the nose behind this one. He is the perfumer for Louis Vuitton. But he did some of his best work outside of Louis Vuitton, because at Louis Vuitton, the perfumes he did for Louis... Anyway, we digress. This is gorgeous, gorgeous in November. Even the Eau de Toilette and the Eau de Parfum concentrations, which are still in production, the Parfum is no longer in production. From time to time, they re-release the Parfum in some special limited edition corset, but very rarely. I haven't seen the Parfum of Classique re-released in at least 10 years, so go figure. But anyway, so this is the corseted version Splash of Classique by Jean-Paul Gaultier, which was in the early 90s when it was first released, just named Jean-Paul Gaultier. In this gorgeous, also revolutionary for its time, and still to this day, one of my favorite boxes and containers and holders for a perfume bottle in a can. It's inside with a sponge. There you go. Let's close it up and protect it in its little house. Gaultier Parfum. Ah, the love of my life. The next one is beautiful and Majestic in November. It just walking down the streets in your own thoughts with a beanie or a hat or a fedora, whatever you have, scarf, coat, everything in black. I'm envisioning this like a black total look. Yohji Yamamoto or somebody else. Well, actually, not Yohji probably, because this is Incense Avignon by Comme des Garçons, and Rei Kawakubo is not friendly with Yohji. So let's just say that Dover Street Market does not sell Yohji Yamamoto, because Rei Kawakubo and Yohji have had a falling out many, many decades ago. So it's kind of funny that I'm envisioning me wearing Yohji Yamamoto from head to toe while I'm wearing a Comme des Garçons perfume. But oh well. Jump over your own shadows, people. Make peace again. Come on. Oh man, is this thing beautiful. This is a wonderful, deep, elegant, soft incense that makes you feel cradled and safe. It's beautiful. Just beautiful to wear this when you're out and about in cold weather in November. I love to spray this early in the morning, right after breakfast. Although this is one of those, you can actually wear it also before breakfast, because usually on an empty stomach, most perfumes on an empty stomach they just make me cramp up even more. This one, I prefer it after food, but it can also be worn before food. It has almost like a tea vibe about it. You know, almost like a tea quality to it, a softness to it. It's not aggressive. It's beautifully cradling and soothing. This is a great perfume to make you feel safe and protected. And yeah, yes, it's Avignon. Yes, it's kind of the whole concept of these perfumes of the incense series from Comme des Garçons is spiritual, religious highlights from the world. There's 5 different perfumes from 5 different religions, you know, all the way from Shintoism to Catholicism or to Christianity. Avignon being in France and being the Catholic version of incense. So putting aside all the religious aspect and just kind of understanding the concept of the research that Comme des Garçons as a brand did towards delivering an incense variation for every different culture, really. It's more of a cultural thing than a religious thing, but it is a spiritual thing, because incense is mostly in every culture, you guys, incense is connected to spirituality. So November, which is kind of the last month of autumn, and then December shifts into winter, it's kind of the last moment to gather all our harvest, our interior thoughts, evolve, move on, and embrace the new us coming in the new year, and kind of letting go of the old us, shedding skin, changing, permutating, cathartic processes. That's what Avignon is all about. So it's really, really beautiful for November. Very much for spending a day alone on the town. Just like self-love. Self-love. That's Avignon. The next one is one of the loves of my life, seriously. I mean, I can't. There's no autumn without 31 Rue Cambon, and November is just perfection for this haute couture perfume. I mean, if any Chanel perfume can be defined haute couture, it's 31 Rue Cambon. That's why Jacques Polge and Chanel gave it that name, 31 Rue Cambon, which is the home of haute couture Chanel. It's kind of like a modern day Chypre. Very, very sophisticated, super complex, rich. It smells like a thick woven tweed tapestry with all the handmade added embroidery embellishments. Haute couture, baby. Haute couture. Labdanum, patchouli, civet accord, florals, aldehydes, sparkly at the top, deep at the bottom, red, a lot of red, very much Tyrian red by Chanel, one of her favorite reds. She loved her Tyrian pink and Tyrian red and reds. Oh, Majestic. It's mossy as well. It's deep. It's complicated. It's light, but it's dark. It's really, 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 really difficult to explain this perfume in words. You have to wear it like an haute couture piece. You have to wear. I have the Eau de Toilette here, which I adore. Unfortunately discontinued, but you can get the Eau de Parfum, which is also really beautiful. It's a little bit warmer, the Eau de Parfum. It has that. It's a bit mushier in the dry down. The Eau de Toilette is Christopher Sheldrake with Jacques Polge delivered this one. And there's that Sheldrake magic in here, more than the Polge magic, if I got to be honest. And this one cuts. It's so precise. It's like haute couture. Every cut, every tailored moment, every embroidery is so precise and thought through, handmade. There's like nothing is out of place. Not one single ingredient is in a position where it's not supposed to be. Everything is exactly where it has to be. And it is shockingly beautiful how everything falls into place. It kind of almost leaves you out of breath because you're like, well, how is this possible? Now with the Eau de Parfum, things vibrate a little bit more. They're not that clean, but still light years better than most other perfumes out there, just saying. So this thing is like the best tweed jacket Chanel can offer you, handmade, to wear in November when the weather is kind of getting cold and cool. Now, if you can't afford your $40,000 starting point, upwards to hundreds of thousands of dollars for a handmade haute couture Chanel tweed jacket, well, this is the next best thing. Still, they went up in price lately. They're very expensive, these perfumes nowadays, but honey, worth every penny in my opinion, still to this day, even though I feel like their price increases are so gouging and unfair and greedy kind of feeling. Still, like, my love for these perfumes is just so big that I'm a sucker for it. Like, what can you do? What can you do? So anyway, that's 31 Rue Cambon. Oh, masterpiece, masterpiece. And my number 5 is actually number 1. Number 5 is number 1 Intense by Nicolai, Patricia de Nicolai, from the Guerlain family. but she started her own business after, you know, Guerlain did not want to have a woman as an artistic director of their perfumes. How sad, Guerlain. Get with it. My dear friend Vel gifted me this perfume, so it holds a very special place in my heart. Not just because she gifted it to me, but because she made me discover this perfume. And when she made me discover this perfume, I was like, oh my God, this is gorgeous. Like, gorgeous. So independently from the fact that she made me discover it and gifted it to me, I loved it. And so really special vibes there and special memories. But beyond that, the formulation of this thing is just amazing. I mean, this is a tuberose magical potion in the truest form of tuberose, developed in the late 80s. Still in production today, even though it's changed now. It's not, it used to be called number 1. Now it's number 1 Intense. Wait, what did I do here? Did I scratch it? Oh, no, I didn't. Okay, got wet. All cleaned up now. Oh my gosh. There's Acacia in here as well. Hey, Acacia, how's it going, sweetie? And the tuberose kind of comes and goes, just like the real tuberose flower. It would tickle you from a distance, from meters and meters away, or kilometers away, or miles away, and you would kind of catch a whiff of it and ask yourself, well, what's going on? Well, where did this come from? And then you kind of go on the search for this flower, and it's intoxicating. This is one of the reasons why in the past times, you know, virgin girls were never allowed to pass by a blooming tuberose shrub, because it, you know, they say it's just so erotic that it would make you lose your virginity and stuff like that. So you can imagine how powerful the tuberose is. If in modern day and also antique folklore, it is seen as a wicked flower, a flower that will make you lose your senses and just abandon yourself to your instincts, your sexual instincts being those instincts. So very, very powerful. And Patricia delivers a tuberose in its true form, because just like the actual tuberose, it's not overpowering per se, like let's say a gardenia flower would be, but rather it keeps poking at you. Just like, you know, if you're riled up hormonally and you just can't let go until you let go. And so this one keeps emanating from the skin and kind of keeps poking at you when you least expect it. Like 1 hour into the perfume, you get a whiff of something magical and you're like, what, how? And then you smell yourself and it's not there. But from a distance, it reappears again and it teases you. And that's how tuberose actually behaves in nature as well. And that's how this perfume behaves on the skin. Patricia is a wonderful, she's a chemist, you know. She knows her chemistry. She knows her ingredients. She knows her formulas. She's a magician when it comes to perfumes. So this thing is really, really magical. Number 1, Intense by Patricia de Nicolai, Parfumeur. If you love your tuberose and you like a little bit of 80s shoulder pad magic to go with it, this is the one to wear. Why in November though? Because usually, you know, white florals, it's a summer affair. Usually it is a summer affair, but not with this one. This one is so good in cold months. It just, it's such a chameleon. It kind of becomes cold itself. It starts wearing a cold outfit when you're wearing it. So number 1, Intense smells cold in winter and it smells kind of warm in summer. Such a chameleon. So it's very adaptable. It adapts to the weather. And I love my white florals. I love them regardless of the temperature outside or, you know, the season. But some white florals, like I have to come home where it's really warm, where I can heat up or whatever. And then I can wear my summery white florals. But I miss my tuberose when out and about. It's one of my favorite white florals. So number 1, Intense really delivers on that aspect, because it's a white floral and it is a tuberose that you can really enjoy in cold days, because it doesn't smell out of place at all. It just matches. So if you are a white floral lover like I am, number 1, Intense is perfection in November. And that's why this one, I have chosen it for November. So these would be my top 5 perfumes for the month of November. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Let me know your top 5 down below. Subscribe to my channel if you've enjoyed this video. Thumb up the video if you've enjoyed this video. And never forget to never give up on love. Fragrant love, that is. Take care. Love you. Bye.